up to Stoke now, where the count's taking place in a local sports hall. They like sports halls because you can lay out all the tables in the space there and do the counting on the tables. Very efficient way of doing it. Let's hope they're efficient tonight. Gerard Batten is a member of the European Parliament for UKIP. He is joining us from the count in Stoke. Now, Gerard Batten, can you tell us how is your party likely to fare tonight, this morning?
Well, it's a bit too early to say, Andrew. It's definitely a two-horse race. It's between us and Labour. And what I've been saying for the last couple of weeks is that it's either going to be, say, 1,000, 2,000 to Labour, or it's going to be a very close result, and it could go either way. And I still not in a position to say that what that's going to be yet.
But the options you gave me there, it's either a couple of thousand to Labour or a very close result. It doesn't sound that you're too confident that Mr. Paul Nuttall has pulled this off for you.
Well, it's a very difficult task, of course, to win a seat like this, which has been in Labour's hands since 1950, I believe. So, you know, to win a seat from another party that's got that long established record here is always going to be a difficult thing to do. And of course, we've seen two things in this election which have been, I think, pretty bad. The Labour Party has had absolutely nothing positive to say about itself, but it's attacked UKIP on a lie, which is that we want to privatise the NHS, which just isn't true. It's never been true, and we've had that on the doorstep. And the other thing has been the sustained character assassination by the media against Paul Nuttall, or some elements of the media, and that's played on the doorstep as well to a certain extent.
So the complaints about Mr. Nuttall, his sometime vicarious relationship with the truth, that has cut through, you think, on the doorsteps of Stoke?
No, it hasn't. As Paul has explained this many times in the last couple of weeks, he was at Hillsborough. He was 12 years old. His press officer put something up on the website which he didn't check properly, and obviously has over-egged the pudding a bit. And when he realised that had happened, he frankly admitted he'd made a mistake, and he apologised for it. But that's the extent of it, Andrew.
No, but I understand that was the explanation. But it wasn't just Hillsborough, though, that I think that did matter for a lot of people. It was also his relationship with Tranmere Rovers, which wasn't quite what he had claimed it to be, and his so-called PhD, which was not a PhD. It just created a sense that he had a lot of questions to answer, and I would suggest got in the way of you getting your other messages across. That Mr. Nuttall turned out not to be the candidate that you really needed if you were going to win Stoke.
Well, what we've had is elements of the media who don't want UKIP to win, who've worked these things up into, the extent that it is far beyond their relevance or their truth, and they've done a good job. They've managed to get those things on the doorstep, and so people like The Guardian and Channel 4 can be proud of themselves that they've actually done the damage that they've done to UKIP, rather than actually reporting the election campaign itself and the issues that matter. Are
you telling me that The Guardian and Channel 4 News are big on the the backstreet terraces of Stoke?
It gets into the mainstream media. It's repeated in radio programmes, and you're talking about it tonight, Andrew. It's been talked about, so that's how they get it. They may not be reading The Guardian, but it filters down. People who don't read The Guardian do often see the press reviews on Sky, for example.
OK, but it seems to me from your whole demeanour and what you're saying here is that you're getting your excuses in first now, aren't you?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite
You're
catch
getting
that.
your excuses in now. It doesn't, from your demeanour and the way you're going on about the disadvantages Mr. Nuttall faced, many of his own making, that it hasn't gone as well for you as you would have hoped.
Well, I've fought many by-election campaigns, general election campaigns, European election campaigns since I helped set UKIP up in 1993, and this has been about the dirtiest campaign I've ever seen. That's all I can say on that.
Really? Aren't by-elections usually pretty dirty? Most by-elections I've covered have been pretty dirty. That's what by-elections are.
Well, this is maybe you've seen more than I have, Andrew. But I think that this
I
is
probably
about
have.
the worst example that I've actually,
but-
about the worst example I've seen, and I've never experienced anything like this. But then I've never, in a general election or by-election, I've never come this close to winning.
Those of us who
personally.
remember,
And I think if a UKIP,
those of us who remember and covered the Bermondsey by-election many years ago in London are really shocked by nothing these days. But let me just ask you this before we go, because we're very grateful for your time, and I know it's difficult when the result is still unclear. But if you cannot win in Stoke, which Mr. Nuttall called Brexit Central, that this was one of the Brexit constituencies, if you can't win there, where can you win?
well, this, with all due respect to Stoke-on-Trent Central, it was number 72 on our target list. So I think we've done very well, however we get on here. You know, in all the UKIP elections I've taken part in, if we win, it's called a flash in the pan, and if we lose, it's the end of UKIP. So I won't be. The party has never been more united than it has in this campaign. We've had hundreds of people out. People have been solidly behind Paul, working for a win. So this has actually brought the party together under his leadership. So it's positive from us from that point of view, whatever the result is. And as I said right at the beginning, it's too early to call. We could still be winning this.
I understand. We'll see how united UKIP remains.
We won't know for an hour or two yet.
No, I understand that. We'll be here till we get it. We'll see how united UKIP remains when we get the result.
Okay.
But thank you for joining us there. We may try and come back.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.